Hey guys, Quincy here. That's not a Viper. Yeah, I know. It's a Strike Eagle. She has two of everything and then some. I know. But since she's got two, she's also number two, and that she is runner-up at the prom. Sorry, but the Viper is the prom queen in my mind. But the F-15 Strike Eagle is a very close second. But this is maybe the first in a series of Quincy's Quick Tips. So I want to try and help you out with something you might be having a problem with, and that involves the finger lifts. The finger lifts are very important for the start cycle of the F-15 Strike Eagle. So let's get in the cockpit and take a quick look. As we can see on the throttle quadrant, there's an off position, an idle position, and if you have the WinWing Orion 1 and 2 with the F-15E or F-15EX grips, you probably bought it with the finger lifts, expecting, well, I should be able to use the finger lifts in the start cycle of the F-15E. You may be perplexed on how to get that to actually work. The off position, just like on all the other jets, that is how we shut off the engine. We have to go to that position, usually over our idle gate to get there. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem shutting down. So you have to bind that with something. Well, there's a little trick in the F-15E to get the finger lift to work, even though there's no switch associated with it, and to be able to shut off your engines. So we're going to take a look at the left throttle so that we can see the finger lift right here. Let's take a look at the control bindings. We go to adjust controls. You want to look for finger, finger lift left, finger lift right. This is my WinWing Orion 1 base, my spare, with the F-15E running on my desktop instead of my sim pit. So a very simple setup here. So we want to bind this control to what is the full aft position on our left throttle. You'll notice that as I move the throttle, it shows joy button 31 until I get all the way aft and it turns to button 2. We don't want to use 31. That is the idle, quote-unquote, position. But don't let it fool you. Ignore it. We want to bind this full aft, or what is normally the fuel off or cut off position, to the finger lifts. That's the left. And then we'll do the right. Notice once again it comes through button 30 as I bring that throttle back. Then it finally hits button number 1. So button 1 and button 2. Now let's go back to the cockpit. Alright, we're going to do a quick start here, just to demonstrate how this will interact. Okay, JFS on. We can hear that spool up. Let's take a look at this left throttle and the finger lift specifically. Now, we've binded that finger lift so that when this throttle comes back to what is normally the off position, that is the setting for the finger lift. So I'm going to raise the mechanical finger lift on my WinWing, and I'm going to bring that throttle all the way back right now. Watch what this finger lift does on the screen. Did you see it raise? There it goes. And now you hear the engine start. So this position is still a fuel cutoff position. This is just allowing the JFS pressure to come in and start up the engine. As we see that the engine core is starting to spool up here, and we're waiting for about 26-27% RPM. Now we need to reintroduce fuel so that we can light off the engine and let it run. So we're going to push that left throttle forward to the idle position. Notice the finger lift moves again, and we're going to see the engine start to spool up right in here. RPM is starting to increase. Temperature is increasing. There's also fuel that's being introduced there, but it's not registering fuel flow yet. You can hear the engine starting. And it sounds like a nice normal start. JFS shuts off. Generator comes online. We now have power. And we can see fuel flow, engine starting to stabilize at its idle setting. Both RPM, temperature, and the fuel flow is also stabilizing. So, let's start the right engine real quick. Back to idle. Lift the mechanical WinWing finger lift. And go to off. You'll hear the JFS again. Once again waiting for 26 to 27%. When it's there, let's introduce the fuel. Push it up to idle again. The engine will start to accelerate. Because the generators are already on, we see the fuel flow start earlier than we did with the other engine. We can hear it starting up, has a normal sound to it. JFS cuts out, and the engine continues to stabilize at the idle position. So you might ask yourself, how do I shut down the engine if the throttles at off are binded to finger lifts and not to off? Well, coincidentally, that finger lift position is the fuel off position. As we saw during the start, when we went into the finger lift position back at off, that initiated the JFS to start spooling the engine, but there was no fuel in it yet. So let me push the right engine up a little bit so you can see. We'll shut off engine number 1, or the left engine. Raising the finger lift on the WinWing and bring it back to the off position. Now let's look at the engine here. Left engine, RPM is coming down, temperature is coming down. We can hear the engine winding down and shutting off. We'll do the same thing with the right engine. Lifting the mechanical finger lift. And to off. We could hear it roll back. And we could see RPMs coming down, temperature going down. And then it decelerates to the point the generator cannot provide electricity, and that's off. So folks, that is your Quincy's quick tip on how to bind your non-electrical finger lifts and make them function like they should within the F-15 Strike Eagle. Hopefully that helped. It was a little longer than maybe either of us thought, but hey, good luck. Take care.